Welcome back. You're watching Network Africa. I am Adeshawa Josh. You can watch us on youtube.com/channels web. And for our viewers outside West Africa, you can watch us live on m.channelstv.com from your laptop or mobile device. You can also download the Channels TV app for Android, iOS and Windows phones from their respective stores. As part of efforts by the Nigerian Army to rid the northeast of Nigeria of terror attacks, it has arrested 10 suspected Boko Haram members at a filling station in Birniwa, a border town in Jigawa State. The men, including 2 minors of age 14 and 15, were arrested by men of the Operation Salama of the Nigerian Army. According to the brigade commander, Brigadier General Hamisu Hassan, the men were fleeing from men of the armed forces and were attempting to cross into Yobe before they were rounded up. And prior to this operation, 3 suicide bombers had detonated explosive devices in a mosque and a residential area, killing scores of people. The bomb reportedly went off on Thursday evening as worshippers were observing their prayers. We spoke to our correspondent in Borno State, Blessing Tuna, about the latest on the bombings, and here's what she had to say.
Last night, we're talking about between 14 to 20, but this morning the death toll of yesterday's bombing has increased to 30, and we have 32 people at the state specialist hospital and 7 at the teaching hospital. Now, from this morning's attack, 7 people have died, and then an unspecified number of others are in hospital receiving treatment. And what this has caused is at the moment, there are more stop and checkpoints around the capital city. And there are also signs of military hostility this morning. We are ourselves victims. We went to film the scene of the incident, and we had our cameras seized and all of that. This is not the first time we are going to scenes of bombing to film what is happening. We don't know why the military are suddenly hostile today. There are no military formations around, and the witnesses around willing to speak with us. We are still trying to make sense out of why all of that has happened, and they're talking about security threats. We don't know what threats they are talking about, but at the moment our cameras are still with them, and they said that we need to be sure that what we have filmed will not constitute a threat before they release the cameras to us. We're with some of our colleagues, so I think they have about 3 cameras in their custody right now. The major challenge right now is the hospitals are overstretched. The last time we were at the specialist hospital, there wasn't enough space to accommodate the victims that were evacuated. We had some of them on the floor and all of that. And then another issue the rescue operators are dealing with is most times when such incidents happen, and then they rush to rescue. There's this fear of a second assailant to be knocking around somewhere. But for now, the major challenge we see right now is the issue of space in the hospital to accommodate victims of such attacks.
Well, that's our correspondent, Blessing Juno, there, bringing us the latest on the Maiduguri bombings. Now, we're being joined by Dr. Ona Ekomu. He's a security expert. He joins me on Network Africa to try to understand the new trend, in quote, as some people would say, the bombings in Maiduguri. Thank you so much for joining us on Network Africa.
Thank you.
We're beginning to see a disturbing trend in the bombings in Maiduguri, even as the army continues to arrest sect members and frustrate their operations. Would you say there's a missing link somewhere? Why, somehow these pockets of bombings are just coming up back to back?
Well, Shawa, I think what we are seeing is the makings of a classic asymmetric conflict. We are using a square peg in a round hole, as it were.
Help me to understand that.
We have an asymmetric conflict on our hands, but we are trying to use conventional tactics. Now, what the military is doing right now is excellent. It's fantastic, because you have to take the threats, that is Boko Haram threats, out of the combatant, that is out of the field of battle. You have to neutralize them, either kill them, arrest them, whatever, convert them into nice guys, whatever it is you need to do. You have to get them out of the field of battle. But having done that, there is a larger problem of these persistent IED threats, like you have rightly identified and like Blessing Tuno has talked about in her report recently. You know, the soft target bombings, markets, mosques, transportation centers, banking facilities. In fact, even they have started attacking people waiting in the queue to get money from ATMs. So what I'm saying is, these are there is a different type of a threat, and we are using conventional tactics to fight it, as if there's an army arrayed on the other side, and the Nigerian police and the Nigerian army is arrayed on the other side, and they have a shooting war going on. It's not, because with conventional, with asymmetric warfare, the threat can erupt anywhere. And what they do, this is what we call the classic guerrilla tactics. So while you are looking for them in Borno, of course they are still bombing every day in Borno most. They are also attacking targets in Kuje, in Yanya. They are attacking targets in Keno. They are attacking in Kogi. So what I'm saying is, you know, there's no defined front line right now in this battle, and that's really what is going on. So what do we call that in security? We'll say it's a poor threat definition. We need to properly define the threat that we are facing, such that we can now start going toward the proper solutions of the problem.
Let me ask you quickly. Some people have also said that maybe intelligence is not enough, but that's a question for another day. These attacks have been on the outskirts, and there are reasons to believe that they are actually soft targets. Do you agree?
Yes, ma'am. There are, of course, obviously we have soft targets. It's everywhere. Any non-hardened military target is a soft target. That's what we mean. Not military, just police also. You know, a hardened target is built or is prepared to receive or to withstand an attack, such that if someone will come there with an AK-47 or even with an explosive device, an IED, and detonate, they will be able to resist that attack, or maybe even neutralize the threat before the threat materializes and causes casualties. That's the definition of a hardened target. But the soft target is anywhere that you don't have military personnel, you don't have police personnel, you don't have armed security personnel, even civilian JTF, for example. They have become part of the security architecture. Anywhere you don't have those people who are able to resist or neutralize suicide bombers or what have you, those ones are definitely soft targets, because they are not able to fight for themselves, as it were. So I think, but the irony here, Shawa, is that for soft target protection, you need intelligence. And not just intelligence, you need the enrollment of the citizens. You need the citizens to get involved in threat identification and in threat response. That is being able to call the authorities and say, hey, there's somebody here who is refusing to be searched, and we cannot quite get them to cooperate with local authorities.
Let me quickly come in here, because that appears to be the real problem here. At least that's what a lot of people believe. How hard is it to recognize a suicide bomber? If you live in an area where this happens almost every week and it just keeps happening, how can we get the residents to cooperate with the local police or the vigilantes to recognize that, look, this doesn't look normal? Are there ways to recognize a suicide bomber?
Yes, Shawa. I think, yes, we know from research, there's a lot of work out there. There are ways to recognize suicide bombers. But first, you asked a two-part question. You asked, how do we get citizens to cooperate with the police or to even help the police in identifying suicide bombers, and then how hard it is, or what are the ways in which we can recognize these, criminals or these terrorists. Well, first of all, the first question, working with the authorities. The problem here is that there is no initiative in place. We must have IED prevention initiatives in place at the state level and even at the federal level, right, in order to have the linkage that is necessary to use the citizenry as a bulwark of defense against suicide bombers. Because citizens are everywhere, but how many are there in the security agencies? They are just a far and few in between. So it is through the eyes of citizens, through the vigilance of citizens, that the authorities can see threats, because these threats also impinge on these citizens.
Okay, so how do we recognize them? Because I have to let you go. How do we recognize these people?
Okay, thank you. Well, first of all, the eyes. That is the first thing we always say. Look at the eyes.
Look at the eyes?
Look at the eyes of some, these people who are carrying this device. They have one furtive. Okay. Yeah, the eyes. The eyes. They have furtive eyes. They have evasive eyes or furtive eyes. Okay. Because it's a stressful situation when you're carrying a device and you know your own death is imminent. It creates stress, and the eye, you can tell from the eye. At least many researchers, particularly from Israel, have shown that you can tell from the eyes of suicide bombers. You look at them and they want to evade your eye. They don't want you to catch their eye. They don't want to catch a glance from you, so that you might not discover them before they get to their target.
Dr. Honor,
remember?
Yeah, I'm going to have to continue this conversation as soon as possible, even though I would agree with a lot of people that looking at the eyes can be a difficult one. But yes, that's the first trick, is to look at the eyes and see who is trying to shield their own death. I believe so. We will definitely stay with that story. Thank you so much for your ever brave insights. Thank you so much. Dr. Honor Akomo is a security expert, and he has been speaking to us on the Maiduguri blast and how security can be vamped in that area. Let's go on a short break here on Network Africa.